I am Emily, 30 years old, born and raised in Manchester, one of the most vibrant and bustling cities in England. My family belongs to the upper middle class. The prosperous life has created conditions for me to develop comprehensively. My parents, although busy with business and social relationships, always spent time with me, nurturing me with love and care. My childhood is full of beautiful memories of going to Heaton Park, bustling festivals on Market Street, and cozy evenings in a house filled with books and classical music. Ever since I was a child, I have been passionate about animals. I remember asking my parents to let me raise a stray puppy in the park or spending hours watching robins hopping on the windowsill. Love for animals is not only a hobby but also an important part that helps me grow up, become more sympathetic, and connected to nature. It was my family upbringing and memories of being attached to animals that shaped me into a kind heart and a strong sense of responsibility. As I grew up, I continued to develop a passion for learning, and learning became the center of my life. I entered university with a strong determination to pursue the path of knowledge. The 4 years of university were a time when I focused heavily on studying, not even paying attention to romantic relationships like many of my peers. I always believed that I needed to build a solid foundation for the future before thinking about love. After graduating from university with good results, I felt ready to step into real life. Although there were many other opportunities opening up, I chose the path of teaching, a decision that was somewhat surprising to those who knew me. However, it was a choice that came from the heart, from the passion for spreading knowledge and the desire to make a difference in the lives of others. I still remember the moment when I shared this dream with my parents, their eyes lit up with pride and absolute support. Earlier this year, when I turned 30, a big turning point came when I passed the entrance exam and officially became a history teacher. It was the result of many days and nights of tireless effort. The result of dedication and passion that never fades. I got a job at a secondary school in Cornwall, a peaceful and quaint town with cobbled streets, ivy-covered houses, and the fresh air of the English countryside. I was both excited and nervous as I packed my bags, ready to start my new life here. I found a small house near the school, surrounded by a lovely garden full of roses and green trees. When I arrived in Cornwall and set foot in the house, I felt an unprecedented freedom. Independent living began to bring me challenges but also excitement. It was the first time I arranged everything myself, from choosing each decoration for the room to gradually getting used to the new pace of life without the bustling car horns like in Manchester. In the quiet afternoons, the birds chirping echoes from the surrounding trees. I feel an indescribable peace, as if this is where I belong, where I will stick to fulfill my dream of inspiring and educating generations of students. When I moved to Cornwall, the first thing I did to ease the feeling of emptiness was to adopt a golden retriever and name him Oreo. Oreo quickly became my best and most loyal friend, bringing joy and life to my little house. Every morning, the cheerful wag of his tail greeted me as I woke up, making me feel energized for the day ahead. In the afternoons after work, I would take Oreo for a walk along the tree-lined streets of the town, admiring the old houses and feeling the peace in the air. Oreo was more than just a dog, he was a silent companion who understood my feelings. One day in September 2005, when I came home tired in the evening, I sat on the sofa in the living room. Oreo ran to me and played with me, but after playing a little bit, because of desire, I taught him to do it with me. At first, Oreo didn't know how to do it, but after many times of training, Oreo became very good and Oreo could do it for a long time. That night, Oreo and I did it many times until dawn. It was this attachment that helped me relieve the loneliness that silently haunted me, especially when living alone in a strange place. After that first time, Oreo and I did it every night when I came home from teaching. Although teaching brings me joy and satisfaction, the busyness and responsibility of teaching make it difficult for me to open up to personal relationships. Since my student years, I have always put my study and career goals first, which has led to me never having a love affair, even though many people have expressed their interest in pursuing me. As time passed, the further I went on my career path, the bigger the void in my heart became. The relaxing moments with Oreo seemed to be my only consolation, my way of finding the closeness and connection that I had always lacked. Everything began to change one autumn afternoon when I met Jake, a man 3 years older than me. That day, After a long day of work at school, I was driving home when suddenly my car broke down in the middle of the road. My car stood alone on the deserted road in the orange-yellow autumn afternoon light. Anxiety quickly set in as I realized I had no idea what to do, especially as it was starting to get dark. As I fumbled with my phone to call for help, a deep voice came from behind me. "Do you need any help?" I turned around and met the eyes of Jake, a man with a sturdy build and a calm expression on his face. Jake wore a grease-stained work outfit, but the genuine smile on his face made me feel much more secure. Without hesitation, he walked over to examine my car, chatting as he worked to ease the tension in my heart. I told him about my teaching job, my early days in Cornwall, and how I loved the peace of the place. Jake listened attentively, nodding and smiling occasionally. He recounted stories about growing up in a small town, his passion for repairing cars since he was a boy, and how he loved the job even though it was sometimes tiring. The conversation between us gradually became natural, as if we had known each other for a long time. After Jake finished repairing the car, I offered to pay him, but he just smiled and shook his head. "No need, it was just a small job. If you have any problems next time, just call me." He handed me a business card with his phone number and name. The sunset reflected on his face, highlighting his deep blue eyes filled with sincerity. I felt my heart lighten and couldn't help but smile gratefully. Since then, we have kept in touch regularly. Jake is not only a talented mechanic but also a person who is always ready to help, listen, and share. Every meeting, whether it is a short coffee break or just a walk around town, makes me feel understood and cared for. He tells me about his family, about his childhood days with his father fishing, and funny stories in the garage. I recognize the simplicity and sincerity in his words and actions, something I have always been looking for but have never found anywhere else. As time goes by, Jake's presence becomes an indispensable part of my life. His warmth and genuine personality make me feel that I am no longer alone. Whenever I feel sad or tired from work, I know I can find comfort and encouragement from Jake. From a chance meeting, our relationship gradually became a deep bond, bringing me a sense of peace and happiness that I had never experienced before. After I met Jake, I stopped doing that with Oreo. After only 3 weeks of knowing each other, I realized that the relationship between me and Jake developed quickly and naturally. Every time we met, my heart beat faster, and I felt the sincerity in his every look and every word. Jake was not only the person I found comfort in but also the person who made me laugh every time I recalled funny stories from the past or when he told me about his simple but meaningful dreams. We spent many afternoons walking around the small streets of Cornwall, stopping at old cafes with strong coffee and fragrant scones. In the evenings, Jake often took me to the wildflower fields where we could watch the sunset change colors and listen to the gentle birdsong. Those were the moments when I realized I had found what I had always longed for, a true connection with someone who understood and loved me unconditionally. After 2 short but memorable weeks, Jake told me that he couldn't imagine his life without me. That simple and sincere confession touched the depths of my heart. I no longer doubted my feelings. The lonely days of the past were replaced by the joy and warmth that Jake brought. We decided not to wait any longer and planned a small but meaningful wedding together. The wedding day came quickly in anticipation. We held the ceremony at a small church located in the middle of a green hill where wildflowers decorated the romantic scene. Relatives and close friends gathered, giving us their heartfelt blessings. I remember the moment when Jake stood waiting at the end of the aisle, his eyes filled with happiness and hope, and I felt my heart beat in sync with that beat. Our vows in the warm light of the afternoon were like a lifelong promise to each other. After the wedding, we returned to the small house that I had rented before. That house, which was familiar to me, was now filled with laughter and the imprints of a shared life. Jake and I rearranged our living space together, adding small decorative items that we both loved. Every evening we sit at the dining table, the flickering candlelight and the intimate conversation make the small room unusually cozy. On weekend mornings, we wake up early to prepare breakfast, sharing every simple but happy moment. After Jake moved in with me, the small house in Cornwall really turned into a true home. Our lives became busier, not only because of daily work but also because of the new things that come from sharing a living space. Every morning, The small kitchen is buzzed with laughter and the aroma of fresh coffee. Jake and I often prepare breakfast together, sometimes the crispy scones he loves, sometimes a simple omelette with the warm taste of family. In the evenings after a long day of work, we cook together, chat, and share everything that happened during the day. Oreo, my golden retriever, seemed strange to this change at first. Before, he was the center of my attention, my only companion when I came home. Now that Jake was here, Oreo needed time to adjust. I remember his curious and somewhat skeptical eyes when Jake moved his things into the house. But Oreo was a smart and affectionate dog. He quickly realized that Jake brought not only change but also love and warmth to the house. Sometimes Oreo would squeeze between me and Jake when we were sitting on the sofa watching a movie, or put his feet on Jake's legs as a way of showing that he wanted attention too. We laughed, and Jake always knew how to make Oreo feel like an important part of the family. On weekend mornings, we would take Oreo for a walk along the paths filled with green grass and wildflowers. Jake's laughter rang out as Oreo rolled around on the grass or ran around carefree, making me laugh too. Those moments filled my heart with warmth and happiness, spreading in every moment. Although life is not without challenges and adjustments, especially when we both have to learn to balance work and life together, the love and sincerity that Jake and I have for each other have made everything easier. There were days when Jake came home late because of work. Oreo and I waited for him together under the warm light in the living room. When he walked in, his eyes were filled with fatigue but also joy when he saw Oreo and me waiting. Jake bent down to caress Oreo, and I realized that the love between us was not only between the two of us but also encompassed Oreo, making the three of us a real family. There were also times when we had to deal with small disagreements in our daily lives about cleaning the house, dividing our time between work and each other, but these were also moments when we learned to be more understanding and patient. Jake had a habit of leaving books and papers scattered on the table, which initially annoyed me. But instead of letting that become a problem, I realized that communicating openly and honestly with him was the key. Jake listened, and we gradually found a balance between personal preferences and mutual respect. As time went on, the little house became filled with memories, peaceful evenings by candlelight, small repairs that Jake did himself, and Sundays when we tended the flower garden together. Oreo lay lazily in the sun, his tail wagging as he enjoyed every moment of a happy and fulfilling life. Although my husband knew nothing about my past, the memories and feelings of guilt still haunted my mind every day. They were secret feelings, mistakes that I wished I could erase, but they still existed, reminding me of the wrong decisions I had made. Every time I see my husband's warm eyes in unconditional love, I feel my heart sink. The feeling that arises like a rolling wave, the sincerity and affection he has for me only increases the torment in my heart, making me wonder if I am worthy of that love. There are nights when the whole house is quiet. I lie awake listening to his steady breathing beside me and can't help but feel lonely in my thoughts. What happened is not only a valuable lesson but also a reminder that life is not always about making the right decisions. There were times when I let my heart go astray, letting my emotions and weaknesses take over, and it was those moments that led me down a path that I now deeply regret. But I know the most important thing is not to let yourself fall into regret forever. I need to face reality, forgive myself, and find ways to make amends for my current life. I want to say to those who may be facing the same temptations or insecurities that I have experienced, be sober and appreciate what you have. Sometimes just one wrong decision can lead you away from what is truly important, causing you to lose not only your peace of mind but also the trust of the people you love the most. Don't let a moment of weakness become a burden that will haunt you for the rest of your life. Stop, think carefully, and if necessary, turn back while you still have the chance. Sometimes the greatest courage is to admit your own mistakes and decide to live differently, to appreciate the present and protect it with all sincerity and determination. Love is not only what you receive but also what you are willing to do to keep it intact. Anyone can make mistakes, but the difference lies in how we choose to act afterwards, bravely face and move on or sink into regret. I chose to face, preserve, and cherish my family more than ever, and I hope that anyone who reads this will also find the awakening to choose the right thing for themselves.